Chapter text. Oh, starting 4th year. Harry's Pav. When Ron, Hermione, and I made our way into Transfiguration's class that fateful day, Draco Malfoy was already getting torn into by McGonagall. There's no excuse for improper attire, Mr. Malfoy. I should send you back to your dorm to change, but since I know getting out of my class is what you want, you have detention instead, McGonagall was saying. Malfoy wasn't wearing his school robes. He didn't even have on his vest or tie. He wore only the buttoned-down shirt and trousers that were optional under attire. That's not fair, Professor. I accidentally left my robes in the hospital wing. I was properly dressed when I left my dorm this morning. I shouldn't be punished for being sick, Malfoy protested. The way he said hospital wing made me think he'd already mentioned this before I arrived, although I didn't know anything about it. I will reconsider the detention if you can produce a note from Madame Pomfrey, McGonagall countered. Malfoy huffed, giving the impression of being put upon by being asked to obtain a note, but he nodded anyway. Now you've wasted enough of our time. Sit, Mr. Malfoy. Class has started. Essays everyone, McGonagall called. Malfoy sat. We all pulled out our scrolls and passed them up. When McGonagall collected the last of them, she looked sternly down at Malfoy. Mr. Malfoy, where is your homework? Don't tell me you left that in the hospital wing too, McGonagall said. No, Professor. I didn't get a chance to do it. I was too ill. Please, Professor, I feel really awful. Can I go lay down? Malfoy asked, hand on his stomach like he had a stomach ache. No, you may not. Madame Pomfrey said there is nothing wrong with you. It'll be another detention for not doing your homework. Now stop complaining and stop interrupting my class, McGonagall replied. Then McGonagall proceeded with class as usual. We were transfiguring guinea fowl into guinea pigs. Hermione was brilliant at it and helped Ron and me with our spells. I finally got it towards the end of class, while Ron still had scaly feet when McGonagall ordered the animals returned to their cages. At first I was too busy depositing my guinea pig to notice that anything was unusual. But when I looked up, all eyes were of Malfoy, again. His guinea pig was perfect, cradled in his arms as he halted in his tracks, no longer moving to put the animal away. Instead he was twisting at the waist, turning his head to look at where Pansy Parkinson was pointing. He turned on the spot, trying to get a better look at his backside, and in the process, showed the entire class the deep red stain on the seat of his trousers. I gasped. Malfoy blushed and dropped his guinea pig. McGonagall caught the animal with magic and levitated it into a cage. Several students shouted out questions to Malfoy at once. What's that? Are you hurt? Is that blood? What happened? Malfoy reached behind him and swiped at the stain, coming away with blood-stained fingers. Mr. Malfoy, it seems you finally get your way. You are excused from the remainder of the lesson in order to visit the hospital wing, again. You are still responsible for the material I am about to cover and the reading that will be assigned at the end of class, as well as the essay you have yet to complete, McGonagall said. Madame Pomfrey told me not to bother her again. She said I'm fine and to stop coming to her, Malfoy said weakly, not his usual self at all. Yes, but you were not bleeding then. I am sure she will be able to tell there is a problem now, McGonagall replied. McGonagall replied. What if he was bleeding before? What if he's been bleeding on the inside since last night? And the incompetency at this school made him go to classes anyway, he could have died. Pansy Parkinson exclaimed overdramatically. Everyone was still staring at Malfoy's bloody bum and I felt sorry for him for once as he stood there looking confused. I pulled out my winter cloak and offered it to him to cover himself. By that time, all the students were speculating about where the blood was coming from. Seamus even crudely whispering that it was the ass, which probably factored into Malfoy's decision to take my cloak to cover himself. He put it over his shoulders, covering the bloodstain from view. McGonagall sighed. Take him to the hospital wing, Mr. Potter, she ordered. I stepped forward and reached for Malfoy's arm, tugging, to get him moving. He stopped to grab his bag and scoop up his things from his desk, while his friends argued with McGonagall over who should be the one to take him. McGonagall shot them down, stating that they had wasted enough class time today and they needed to get back to work. I had offered my cloak, so I was taking him. I grabbed my bag, already packed because I hadn't bothered taking anything out to take notes with, and ushered Malfoy from the room. Malfoy was slow going up the multiple flights of stairs to the infirmary. "Are you all right?" I asked him as he paused on the third staircase. "My stomach hurts," he said, ruffling his arms underneath the cloak. I looked at his stomach more closely then and noticed that he was clutching it again. "Is that where the blood is coming from?" I asked, wondering if he was going to faint before we even got to the 4th floor. "I don't know," he shrugged and continued upwards. We were close then. I offered words of encouragement, urging him on. I took my cloak back from him as we approached the entrance to the hospital wing. I shouted out for Madame Pomfrey to come help as Malfoy continued onto a chair covered in school robes, Slytherin tie on top. He hadn't been lying to McGonagall, his clothes were here. Oddly enough, Malfoy grabbed for his tie and started putting it on. Just as Madame Pomfrey came out of her office. "Why in Merlin's name is Mr. Malfoy back? 3 times in 24 hours, Mr. Malfoy? Your head of house will be hearing about this," Pomfrey said. "Please, madam, he's bleeding," I said, motioning towards Malfoy's bum. "Where?" she asked, stopping Malfoy from grabbing for his robes in an attempt to cover up. "I told McGonagall you said not to come back for this. I just need my clothes." "I left them," Malfoy said, pulling away from the school nurse. I deduced that he was wary from his previous visits, when he'd clearly been bleeding internally or something and she'd turned him away. "Hold up a minute and let me see," Madame Pomfrey ordered, grabbing hold of Malfoy and turning him. The blood stain in his trousers was bigger now, she gasped. Pomfrey cast a spell with no results. "No injuries. What happened?" she asked Malfoy. He shrugged. "I told you. My stomach started hurting last night. Come on, to the loo. We need to get you cleaned up and see where that blood is coming from," she said, hand on his shoulder. Malfoy reached out to me then, hand clasping mine, and caught my eye. He looked scared, silently begging me to come with him. I wouldn't want to be naked in front of the school nurse either. I felt so sorry for him that I gripped his hand back and followed. I couldn't imagine how awful it would be to suddenly start bleeding from my bum during class. And to top it off, he'd apparently been in pain for the better part of a day, turned away from the hospital wing twice, and told by multiple adults that there was nothing wrong with him and to stop complaining. I knew he was the type to bemoan the slightest scrape and make a mountain out of a molehill. I figured that was why no one much cared when he'd complained earlier. He was probably scared that all his crying wolf would have him sent away again now that he was actually in need of medical treatment. The loo was a large tiled room. Pomfrey stopped in the middle of it and ordered Malfoy to strip. He once again started on his tie, as she summoned a hospital gown. She held out the gown to him as he removed his shirt, letting it fall to the floor on top of his tie. She helped him into the gown, opening in the back, and was tying it in the back as he moved to push his trousers and pants down in one fluid motion. There was a moment when the gown was rucked up and I got a glimpse of a large bush of light-colored pubes in the triangle between his legs. I couldn't tell if they were naturally several shades darker than his hair or red with blood. I turned away, looking down, as my mind registered that I hadn't actually seen anything. His cock and bollocks weren't visible in the brief glance I got. I felt myself growing hard and stole the smallest of glances at Malfoy. Malfoy straightened the gown, covering himself. I looked down again, at the bloody pair of pants Malfoy had discarded on the floor. There was more blood on them than the trousers. There was more blood on them than the trousers, a concealed blob of the stuff too. Despite the mess, I found myself unable to stop my attraction. I was 14. I could get it up when Hagrid was lecturing about flobberworms. Seeing pubes, bloody or not, even without detail of what lay beneath, was apparently more than enough to get little Harry interested. I felt my face flushing in embarrassment and hoped no one noticed me. Meanwhile, Pomfrey obtained a sample of the blood, cast a spell, and determined, vaginal blood. "You're having your first period, Mr. Malfoy." "What?" "No," Malfoy replied, crossing his arms over his chest in denial. "Yes. The pain you have been experiencing is nothing more than cramping. You can expect it to last 3 to 7 days, once a month." "But I'm a boy," Malfoy protested. "I've seen your file, Mr. Malfoy, so we both know that isn't entirely true. You have fairy condition." This was bound to happen sooner or later, Pomfrey insisted. Malfoy started crying, one fist going into his mouth to muffle his sobs as he sunk down towards the tile. Come now, it'll be okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's all perfectly natural. It's just a sign that you're male fertile now. You can take a nice soothing soak and have a lie down, if you don't feel like going back to class, she continued. But the blood? Malfoy asked. You will deal with it like everyone else. I'll show you how to use a panty liner. There's nothing to it. It's not a big deal. You'll get used to it, she said, pulling out a pack of feminine hygiene products from a bathroom cupboard. She reached towards a stack of panties too, the girl kind, but then thought better of it and summoned a pair of men's pants from one of the outer cupboards. Evidently girls were more likely to need new panties in this loo than boys were. Malfoy took the panty liners and the pants and just stood there, like he was struck dumb by shock. Don't be like that. It's not the end of the world. Sure, you'll get your little visitor every month, but you'll get your own room too. You'll learn to deal and everything will go back to normal, Pomfrey continued. I don't want my own room. I told Snape first year that I wanted to be with the boys. Malfoy yelled, suddenly angry. This seemed like an odd thing for him to be upset about, all things considered. I figured him for the sort to jump at the chance to get his own room. I would even believe that he'd fake something like this to get such a special treatment. But looking at him now, I knew he wasn't faking. Well, Professor Snape has allowed it so far, against better judgment, but now that you've started puberty, it is no longer prudent. There is no getting around it. Once someone with the fairy condition gets their period, they have to be moved into a separate dorm room for their own safety. There is no getting around it. Once someone with the fairy condition gets their period, they have to be moved into a separate dorm room for their own safety. There is no getting around it. Once someone with the fairy condition gets their period, they have to be moved into a separate dorm room for their own safety, Pomfrey said. Don't say that. I hate that name, fairy. I'm not a fairy. I have 5 alpha reductase deficiency and persistent Malarian duct syndrome, Malfoy protested. It doesn't matter what you call it, Pomfrey insisted. You are male fertile, so you'll have to be in a different room. If there were other students in Slytherin with your condition, you would share, but since it is just you at the moment, you will have your own room. You should consider yourself lucky. A decade back we had a burst of students with your condition, all in Slytherin, all crammed into the same room. Malfoy didn't respond to this. Considering the topic settled, Pomfrey moved on to a demonstration of how to spell a panty liner into pants and handed the lumpy garment to Malfoy. When Malfoy still didn't move, she added, right, you should bathe first. She pushed him towards a large tub in the corner and spelled on the tap. Then she caught sight of me and added, Mr. Potter, what are you still doing here? I stuttered. It's far past time you went, Mr. Malfoy will be fine. I started backing away through the door, but only slowly, because I wanted to know more of what was up with Malfoy. I didn't understand half of what they'd said. Why was it that Malfoy was having a period? That was a girl thing, wasn't it? What did being male fertile mean? What was the fairy condition? And what were those syndromes Malfoy listed? Malfoy looked at me then, for the first time since he'd grabbed my hand and silently begged me to come with him into the loo. Don't tell, Potter, please, he said. I nodded. I won't, I promise, I said. See, Mr. Malfoy, Mr. Potter and boys like him are why you need your own room. Perverts, the lot of them, Pomfrey said to Malfoy. Then she spelled the door to slam in my face. I blinked, startled, then left.